Pat, let's get to the picks. What do you say? I'm a little nervous about this one. The 9K, there's a lot of decisions here. It's hard to nail down three. I will say this, though. I feel very strongly that my strategy this week is going to be very much heavy on some 9K guys and a bunch of sprinkles on some cheapies. I'm not as big of a fan of the middle this week as I have been in weeks past. But you start off, you got Rory, who's clearly struggled a little bit. You've got Bryson, who is just ready to absolutely explode in more ways than one. Explode out of his clothing, explode out of the PGA Tour, and just win every week. Justin Thomas, Webb Simpson, John Rahm, Brooks, Cantlay shows up for the first time since the break. Xander, DJ, Rose, Morikawa, and Abraham Answer, arguably one of the hottest players in the world right now, who's just lighting it up in almost every category. So that's your 9K and above range. We're going to give you three tournament plays, or as we call them, GPP plays, which for DFS purposes means like three guys that we like playing in a tournament where you got a lot of people playing. You've got you need to have some. You need to have the winner. You need to have guys that are finishing, very high, and you need to have a little bit of leverage in terms of ownership. So, you don't need to have a bunch of guys that are 20% owned. You need to have a little bit of leverage. So we're going GPP plays. We're going to 3 in this range. We're going to give you one cash play in every range we cover, which is basically saying, hey, we feel like this guy's a lock in a double up, a head-to-head, a 50-50. We feel like this person's a lock, and you don't have to worry about ownership as much. You just need to get all your guys through the cut. And then we're going to give you a fade in each range, basically a guy that we don't think you should play, and we're going to give you reasons why. So, Pat, I'll let you start off in the 9K and above range. What you got?
All right. Well, I am going to start with my man JT, Justin Thomas, at 10-8. I love him this week in tournaments. Look, we've seen him play just, he's even said, and not only Colonial, but last week on Saturday, I think he shot 66, and he said it was like a bad 66. If you're doing that,
bad 66 is
a bad 66. I mean, come on. I don't even know how to quantify that. So, I think JT, this is a great fit for him. I like the price at 10-8. I mean, it's still about where you would expect it to be. You look at the stats, he's definitely checking the boxes there. I mean, he's a great ball striker. He's 4th in the field in ball striking right now over the last 24 rounds. He's 4th in approach. He's 3rd in that opportunities gained stat that I mentioned earlier. You look at par 4 scoring, 400 to 450 yards. He is a 20th in the field in that stat category. So I think JT is set up well to do, just do what he's been doing. In the last few weeks. So as long as he can get off to maybe a better start than he did at the Heritage, where he barely made the cut and then just blistered the field on the weekend, I feel like he is a great play there at 10-8. I don't know where his ownership's going to be. I feel like it's going to be a little higher than it has been this week, but still, I do like JT right there at 10-8, so I will take him in GPPs. I like Brooks Koepka, man, at 10-9. Now, his history here on this course has been, kind of spotty. He was 57th last year, but he finished top 20 in 2018 and T9 in 2016. I think this is a course that he can play well on. We saw him play well on the weekend and get into contention last week at the Heritage. I like the price right there at 10,000. I know it's a big increase from last week, but I think it's well deserved because I feel like he's sort of found his game a little bit. So I'm a big fan of Koepka. I do like him.
Can I stop you right there? Can we have a discussion real quick?
Yeah.
Koepka's interesting, and I upon initial review, I was like, I think I'm liking Koepka here. I don't hate it, and I do like his headspace. He talked about how good his game felt this week, and obviously, he had a good week. When I went and dug a little deeper, in his last 9 events, he's lost strokes on approach in 6 of them. That's dating back to the Northern Trust in August. At the Heritage, he was dead even with approach. but he gained like 7 strokes off the tee. He actually beat Bryson in off the tee. Wow, look at this. Look at my lovely wife has brought me a frothy. Look at this, a frothy Natty Light. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Quite frothy. I didn't intend it for it to be that.
There's a
frothy
lot of
and-
froth there.
Frothy and frosty. You know, look at that. That
Matter
is
of fact, like
delicious.
I want you to take a big swig of that for the video watchers, so they can see like your big
Is he saying that
frothy
his wife
mustache
hasn't?
that's going to happen.
He wants me to take a big sip so I can have a big frothy mustache.
That's weird.
Oh, it didn't show up. No, it didn't happen.
You can't see it. I can feel it, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Domination, everyone.
Yeah, it's amazing to me.
It just
actually, that
concerns me a little bit because I feel like the iron play has been up and down, and I think that's where we've seen a lot of his inconsistency. When we saw a little bit of the slump here in the last year, he's maintained pretty good numbers off the tee, but the approach, you know, from the fairway in, it hasn't been great. So it's just, you know, he lost 5 strokes with his irons at the Charles Schwab. He played better last week, so he's trending nicely. He played better last week and just broke even. But that's just one thing that kind of makes me go, ugh, you know. But I don't hate the play.
I mean, you look at like, let's just talk about the par 4 last or Sunday that he hits it on the green to 3 feet. All right, so we got a drivable par 4 this week. So and then both par 5s he can easily hit into. So he's basically playing, you know, a par 70 is really a par 67 for him, probably.
Yeah, and he's going to have a lot of wedges even when he can't drive the par 4. I get that.
Yeah, so I feel really good about Koepka. I know he didn't play great here last year, but I'm a big fan of him this week, and I'm interested to see where his ownership is going to look, you know, come Wednesday when we're starting to really look at that. The other guy that I like is Xander Schauffele at 9,600. Now he did not have didn't have a great week last week, barely made the cut. You know, so he was, you know, finished T64.
So you're gonna need to explain yourself on this one pretty good, I think.
Here's the thing: his history here, missed the cut in 2018, but had a top 15 in 2014. But let's go look at the stats here. Let's kind of drill down there. 2016, he was top 15.
Okay, I think you said 2014.
Whatever. He's only played here twice, and like you got to think this tournament.
Okay.
This tournament, I think, if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, is varied, but it's right around. It's been right around or before the U.S. Open.
It's right after.
A lot of these guys,
I've said that a couple times.
They've kind of skipped.
It's the week after the U.S. Open.
Yeah, so a lot of people have skipped it. But anyway, let's look at the stats. I mean, he's 15th in the field in ball striking, 26th in approach, 10th in opportunities gained, 2nd in greens and regulation, which you talked about as being one of the ones you liked a lot. He's 21st in strokes gained off the tee, 20th in par 5 scoring, and then 23rd in par 4 scoring from 400 to 450 yards. I mean, all these stats, blah, 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 they're all flying all over the place. But he checks all the boxes. I mean, I think Xander can have a good week this week. I think this is a good course for him. Just because he missed the cut last year or 2 years ago, whenever he played it, doesn't matter. He still has a top 15 finish a couple of years ago. So, and I'm okay with, you know, he didn't play great last week. Who knows? I mean, Hilton Head was crazy. People were talking about COVID was everywhere. I mean, like they couldn't get, like Justin Thomas was like, I couldn't go anywhere because people were so crowded. Like maybe he was uncomfortable, and he's going to be more comfortable in Connecticut where they might be taking it more seriously. I don't know. But I just think Xander is going to have less ownership than he has in any of these 3 tournaments, which is going to be key this week. So I will play him at 9,600. So there you go. My cash play is going to be, I'm going back to Morikawa at 9,100. Didn't have a great week last week. We had him in the chalk bomb, blah, 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 blah. This is still a good course fit for him. He's going to make the cut. He still made the cut, even though, like, Ben Little tried. Ben Little tried his hardest. His little heart was trying just to get freaking Colin Morikawa to miss the cut, naming him in the chalk bomb, which pissed me off. But it turned out okay. But I still think you got to play some Morikawa, and I'll take him in cash. I'll take him in GPPs. I don't care where you play him. I love him this week. So there you go. And my fade is, listen, here's the thing. I've never done this before. David, I don't have a fade in this category. I really don't. I couldn't come up with anybody. I really can't. I don't have anybody that I can justifiably say you have got to fade and have a lot of like conviction behind it. I really don't. And I mean, I want to say like fade John Rahm because he's a big name and people might play, but I really don't. Like, I want to say fade Rory because we've seen him not play so great on the weekends lately, but I still could see Rory just coming out and winning this damn thing. So I got to say, like, I really don't have a solid fade. And well, that may not be what the people want, but that's what they're going to get this week from me. So they may get a solid fade from you. But for me, I am indifferent in the over 9K range. So there you go. Your turn.
I get that. I think I did that last week. I mean, it's a tough when you have fields this strong in this range, like it is, there's not a lot of guys with conviction. We want to say, nope, don't play that person. You kind of just need to go with who you feel good about, make your own decision. Or if you're playing in a GPP tournament on DraftKings, kind of evaluate it based on ownership and let that kind of be a tiebreaker. So you went pretty. I like the picks. I like the picks. I don't really have a ton to debate you on. Basically, I'm looking at Bryson and JT, and I love them both here. I think I lean Bryson. I think I'm going to go ahead and get on the Bryson train. I'm confident he will be the highest owned player in the tournament potentially. So if you're talking about GPPs on DraftKings, you better go. I would go over exposure on Bryson, but I'm ready to do that at this point. I'm all in. I'm all for it. He's just playing too well right now, and I think this course is the best one for him yet. So he's just gonna feast here, man. I think you got to have Bryson. I think it's gonna be similar to Webb last week, where he was the highest owned and he was the chalk. We knew he was gonna be the chalk on Wednesday, but it was chalk you needed to eat, and sometimes that's a lesson. Like, sometimes you just got to eat the chalk, and I think DeChambeau's a chalk I'm eating. But I also like your Justin Thomas play, and I'm probably going to have a little bit of both of them. But I'll go with JT there. I mean, with Bryson there if I had to pick one for sure. After that, I'm going to go down to old Dustin Johnson. I like what he's doing right now. Now, I mentioned that I looked at the last two tournaments. I'm starting to look at some short-term form. DJ – let me tell you what he's done in the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks alone, he is 10th in strokes gained ball striking. So that's strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained approach. But he's 81st in strokes gained putting. Okay, 81st. The putter can turn around for DJ. It can turn around. We always talk about this putting is way more variable. A guy can suck one week and be great the next. A guy can be great one week and suck the next. Ball striking is where it's at. And it appears that over the last, couple of weeks, the ball striking is improving for DJ. We have seen him in a slump a little bit. Now, I know he missed a cut at the Charles Schwab. The irons weren't quite there. It's a lot of rust. He's still gaining plenty of strokes off the tee. But last week, gained 8.5 strokes between off the tee and approach on his way to a 17th place finish there. Putts well on bent grass, putts well on POA, so that'll help him out a little bit. I got a feeling about DJ this week. I think we're going to see an improved DJ. He was 13% owned last week. I don't really see that being a whole lot different, maybe even a little less, and I think he gives you some win equity there. In fact, he's one of the first names I'm looking at in terms of sportsbook plays. He's at 28-1 as a winner right now. So I'm going to go with DJ next. And then
by the way, I don't know if you just noticed, I was showing you that underneath all of my plays there in the 9K range, I wrote down love DJ bonus with a big star. Ooh. Because he was one of those that didn't quite make what I wanted to talk about, but I agree totally. I think he's a great play. So, boom.
I love it. And I'm going right back to the well here with chalk I'm eating. I'm eating the Abraham answer chalk, baby. Like we have talked him up the last 2 weeks, Charles Schwab and the Heritage. He was a cash cornerstone for us. He's been on the betting card. I mean, the guy shot 21 under. 21 under yesterday. There's last week. He gained 12 strokes on approach last week. 12. His iron play is as sharp as anybody on the tour right now. And it has been. I mean, the iron play has actually been really good. Even before the stoppage, it was really good. I think Abe is chalk. I just want to eat. His best putting surface is POA. His worst putting surface is Bermuda, which is what we saw last week. So Bent's kind of in there in the middle. And dude, the kid at 9,000. I mean, I know it's a price jump, but I don't care. He's got experience here, including a top 10 last year. I just think Abe is primed and ready to go. I wrote down Justin Rose as a cash play. So obviously I like Rosie too. I think he's solid in cash here. Great experience here, playing well. Obviously the Hanma curse is definitely real, as he's now with TaylorMade and striking it much better. So I'll go with Rosie and cash. But I do have a fade. I think there is one relatively easy fade, and that is Rory. Because a couple of reasons. Number one, in a field this stacked, with guys like Bryson and JT right below him playing like they're playing, it's going to be very difficult for him to return the value on DraftKings that he will have to return as the highest priced player in the field. You know, a T15 from Rory, a T13 from Rory, unless he's, the top DraftKings scorer, is not going to necessarily win you or maybe even lose you a GPP or placing or cashing. You need more than that out of him. And with what we've seen since the break, he's clearly stalled a little bit. The putter is not quite there. The putter is quite rusty. But even the approach play, although if you look at his approach numbers, if you look at his iron play the last 2 weeks, they're in the positive, okay? But they are nowhere near what they were when we last saw Rory having top fives and winning, okay? At the Heritage, he gained 1 stroke on approach. At Charles Schwab, he gained 1 stroke on approach, okay? The weeks before that, before we split for quarantine, here were his approach numbers: 6.3, 4, 2.8, 5.2, 3.2. Those are his strokes gained approach numbers on measured events before that. The irons are still a little rusty. He's going to gain strokes off the tee. That's what he does. He's going to gain strokes off the tee. But the iron play still seems a little off to me. So I think if it's not at the elite Rory level and you're paying the elite Rory price and you got all these other names that are playing as good as Rory has ever, has played lately, like, I think it's actually a fade that you can make. Did I convince you at all, or did I put you to sleep?
No, I mean, I said earlier, I mean, I don't – there's not really many people in this range here that I'd like to fade. But Rory would probably be the one that I could probably come up with. But then again, I could just see him coming out there and winning this damn thing. So I don't know. No Patrick Cantlay talk, which was interesting because he's back in the field. It's the first time back now that we're in the PGA bubble here, and he didn't make the first 2 events. So we'll see what Cantlay does. It could be interesting. I'm not saying – I don't know. We don't know from him. And he's been playing pretty –
Think back to all the volatility we saw week 1. Think about all the big names we saw week 1 miss the cut. So, maybe that could happen to Cantlay. Maybe he's knocking the rust off like those guys did a couple weeks ago.
Maybe he'd be like this week's Webb, and then the next tournament he's going to win. Yeah. That could be Cantlay could be
100%.
The Webb of this week. We'll see.
Of the Travelers.
Okay.
Before we go further, this is, when it comes to these decisions, and there's a lot of decisions to be made here, ownership is key if you're playing DFS, but then talking through some of the head-to-head matchups, the outrights, if you're betting, the top 20s, top 10s, all that is great information that we discuss every Wednesday night in the Nut Hut, okay? Along with, we've got 9 caddies that we text on a regular basis that are at this event this week. So we will for sure have some caddy insight in the Nut Hut on Wednesday night. The Nut Hut, if you don't know what it is, it's a funny name, but it's basically a tourjunkies.com member-only chat that you can join for a monthly cost of just $10. That's all it is. It's just $10. And with that $10, not only do you get the membership, the 24/7 open chat room access that you can chat with us, you can chat with other members, sharp members of the Nut Hut. We got a lot of sharp members. They're chatting even when we're not in there and bouncing ideas off each other and strategy. It's great stuff. But along with that, and our inside info that we get from our caddies and coaches and things, you get first access to any Tour Junkie event, meetups, or golf tournaments. You get 20% off of all your tourjunkies.com shop purchases for the lifetime of your membership. You get exclusive promo codes for deeper discounts with Tour Junkie sponsors in the future. And you get a free cameo-style video from myself or Pat once a month if you want us to roast a buddy or you just want something. Tell somebody you want us to tell happy birthday to. It doesn't matter. All that for $10 a month. So go join the chat. If you go to tourjunkies.com, you'll see it right there, Golby's Nut Hut. Click on that. Join it for just $10 a month. If you don't like it, turn it off. We get it. But that is going to be the place on Wednesday that Pat will be in there. I will be in there. Ben Little, our chalk bomb expert, and resident data
special
nerd.
Guests sometimes. We get some special guests.
We
like
do get
Moose
special
from
guests
Fantasy
sometimes.
National.
Yeah, we've got Moose in there. That's where we go, man, and it's hopping on a Wednesday night. Couple things. If you're a member of the Nut Hut, a couple key notes. First, don't forget to get in the listener league. So this is something that if you're not a member, you can also do. If you're an active Nut Hut member, we send a link to a DraftKings contest every week. It's free to get in, but our friend Scott Rogers is keeping track of the year-long point totals in that league, and whoever wins at the end of the year, me and Pat are going to treat for a weekend of golf, either at Pat's Golf Club in Savannah, Georgia, at the Landings, where they host a web.com event, or my golf club, Champions Retreat, in Augusta, Georgia, where they host the Augusta National Women's Amateur. We'll host you for a weekend. We'll play some golf. We'll drink some beers. We'll have some food. It'll be a great time. But the longer you're in the Nut Hut and a member of the Nut Hut, and the more of those weeks you play, the more points you accumulate, the more likely you are to win. So if you've not joined, you need to get in there and do that. Also, one last thing with the Nut Hut, we are actively looking to include some sort of video response on the Nut Hut on Wednesday nights. I know that will make Pat very happy. Basically, we're chatting, we're typing, right? And on Wednesday nights, when there's 100 people in there and there's questions flying at you from everywhere, it's hard to get to every question. So we're working on getting a video implement where we can read your questions and answer them quickly on video and still keep it behind the member paywall. So stay tuned.
Yes,
I believe that is
would
coming.
Be great. Yes.
It would be very nice. We're working on that. We may have it this week. Probably not, but we might. We'll see what happens. All right, Pat, let's get to the 8K and above range. And I think there was one more person I kind of had my eye on for. Oh, nope. Okay. I mentioned DJ at 28-1. There is a guy in here that I like for a betting outright. I'll start. How about that? I'll start. I am going to
betting outrights here too, actually.
Okay, good. I'm going to the well with Sung Jae. I just can't imagine Sung Jae losing or missing 2 cuts in a row. It just blows my mind. I'm sure he did you see him on the range?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that on Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
They showed a video from the range, all these guys getting ready to tee off, and Sung Jae was on the range, who had missed the cut the night before. I just don't see the kid.
What else is he going to do? He's in the PGA bubble. He's not supposed to go anywhere. So.
He is in the bubble. Okay, so here's what happened last week. He had an awful week with the putter. Lost almost 4.5 strokes with the putter. Since he has joined the PGA Tour, he has never lost 4 strokes. He's never lost even 4 strokes with the putter. The funny thing is the two times in his short career he's lost the most strokes is at the Heritage. Yeah, he lost 3.7 last year and 4.4 this year. For whatever reason, he is not a fan of the Heritage greens. But before that, always positive in the putting categories. He still hit the ball fine off the tee last week. Irons were a little shaky, but not terrible. I think Sung Jae is a great bounce back, similar to Webb last week. I think he's a great bounce back candidate here. He was 20% owned across most contests, so he pissed a lot of people off. I still think people are going to get back on. I don't think he's going to be completely under the radar, but I love the Sung Jae pick in tournaments. Finally, in this range, I'm going to give you one more GPP. a guy that I feel like nobody's talked about, even us, has not talked about yet this year. And it kind of shows. He was 12% owned last week at the Heritage, is Tony Finau. I feel like I feel like this could – I don't know. I have like this gut feeling about Finau that he may win this week. You know, like we've always wondered, when is Tony going to win a real PGA Tour event? Now, I know he's won a real PGA Tour event. He won the Puerto Rico or whatever it was, is kind of a second-rate event, right? But I just kind of have this weird feeling about Finau. I also have him as my cash play in this range this week. He played, solid the last 2 weeks. He's one of those guys who has gained he's gained some strokes, tee to green, pretty solid. Ball striking has been pretty solid. Putting has actually been pretty solid. The irons need to come around a little bit, get a little sharper, but he's trending up. He did a little better with the irons at RBC than he did with the Charles Schwab. He's chipping really well, almost as good as he's ever chipped. Obviously, he's a bomber, and he's got some experience here. A couple top 25s, a T17. I think Finau is an interesting play and may go under the radar. I mean, 12% last week is not a lot. So I like Tony a lot in tournaments and cash. My fade in this range may be who you're talking about, and that is Paul Casey. For similar reasons to the Patrick Cantlay play, I just feel like when it's your first event back in a while, I think it can make sense, just like we saw these guys coming back. It's tournament golf. It's different than playing at home. There's going to be a lot of volatility here. Now, Paul Casey has an incredible record at this golf course, playing against scrubs, right? Playing against scrubs, that's well established. The putting stats, are okay. He's never been a great putter, but I just think at 8,900, big price, I think I'd rather pivot and go somewhere else. So there's my 8K range. Oh, Finau was my guy. Finau was my guy in that range for the sportsbook play. He's at 40-1. Like I said, I don't know. I have this weird feeling that Finau might win this event.
Yes, it's weird for me with Finau because I actually ended up on him in some of my better lineups last week, and he kind of let me down a little bit on the weekend. I thought he might make a little bit of a run, and it seemed like from watching him and just following Shot Tracker, off the tee was a little bit of an issue. But if you look at like his strokes gained off the tee, at least in the tournament, it wasn't bad at all.
Wasn't that bad.
But he just – like he got himself into trouble. He would hit it into the water, like for no reason, like whatsoever. So I felt like maybe his irons were a little bit off. I don't know. Like there's something with Finau that is not like, he doesn't have everything together, but he's still playing good enough to still be like, what was he, 11 under last week, 11 or 12 under. So he wasn't like that far off. So I don't mind the Finau play, but I just don't know if he's got it totally on right yet, but we'll see. I'm with you on Sung J M. He was one of my tournament plays. I like him also at 35-1. That's where I've seen him, around, the betting odds as far as to win. I mean, I think you're getting a little bit better than what you would be with him based off of how he finished last week. So I like Sung J M at 8,600. I think that's a good play. He's also my cash play as well in that range. My fade, just like you, is Paul Casey. I just think that it's just like it's his first tournament back. He definitely has a course history and all that kind of stuff, but I feel like his ownership is just going to end up being way too high. So I'm gonna fade some Paul Casey this week. And then Sergio Garcia showed me a little something last week at the Heritage. He's
so you're giving a bonus play.
He's fit. Well, I only gave one. M was my only other GPP play.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were talking about Finau, and you're kind of –
So Garcia is my other tournament play. He's at 55-1 if you look at the odds right around there. I like him at 8,500. We always know he's always been a great ball striker. This is another course that he can play well on. He did well last week and played extremely well on the weekends. So I like Garcia at 8,500. I think he's a good play this week. Last time he played here was not – it was back in 2015, and he was top 25. Which isn't bad, but I just think I think Garcia is looking pretty good this week, so I like him there. And so there you go. There's the 8K range. I'm like you. We talked about this earlier. this isn't
Yeah.
really my favorite range. I'd rather, play more 9K and above guys and go down into the 7K range.
Yeah, and I do feel good about Finau, and I like him as a bounce back. But I could see lineups where I don't have either one of them. And I could see maybe just betting Finau and playing him in DFS. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. That stuff's yet to be determined. All right, hit me with the 7K. We're gonna go 3 GPP tournament plays, 1 cash, and 1 fade. What you got?
All right, so I'm going to start with a guy who is another one that finished very strong last week, and he's 40-1, which is actually exactly the same odds. Well, which is Finau, but that's also what you see in Colin Morikawa, who's up there above 9K, and that is Joaquin Niemann at 7,900. Look, the guy, I'm really pissed at myself for not being more on Niemann last week. Okay, I think he should have popped for a tournament like that, and he definitely pops this week. You look across the board. He's 23rd in ball striking. He's 27th in approach, top 20 in opportunities gained. He's, literally across the board. Greens and regulation, everything. Birdie or better percentage. Niemann checks all the boxes. He was T5 here last year. So I think he is a great play this week at 7,900. Now, I think ownership is definitely going to be pushed a little bit more onto him based off of what he did last week. But I do like Niemann at 7,900, so I will play him in tournaments. He is I think he's a big-time play this week. Also, Brian Harman at 7,600. I think he's another good play. He is 100-1, by the way, with his odds, and has absolute incredible course history. You talk about Paul Casey having good course history.
Yeah.
How about some Brian Harman? 8th last year, T6 in 2018, T35 in 17. He missed a cut in 2016, but then a 3rd place finish before that. This is a perfect course for a guy like Brian Harman. I know a lot of people talked about him a little bit, last week, but I do love him this week, and I think he is a great play. He's not going to check a ton of boxes for you, but I just think this is a good course fit for him. We've obviously seen him play well here in the past. So I like Brian Harman at 7,600. Also, another guy that I like as a tournament play, Max Homa down there at the bottom at 7,000. I think this is another good, a good course for him. We saw him finish very strong on Sunday at the Heritage. So I think Max Homa, let me switch over here. I feel like I'm talking like really fast. Doesn't have the greatest course history here, but look, I think Homa's a good play. This is kind of a gut play for me. I like playing guys who finish strong Saturday and Sunday in tournaments for the following week, and that's one of the reasons that I'm with getting on some Max Homa this week. And I like that price too at 7,000. Cash play for me, who could also be a tournament play. And another guy was on later in the week. I don't think I mentioned him on the podcast for the Heritage, and that's Corey Connors. 7,500, this guy is just so solid. He really could have been up there at the end. He kind of faltered on Sunday a little bit, but he should pop for you on any course like this. And he is a great play this week. I love him. He has only played here once, and he did miss a cut in 2018, but I'm fine with that because I feel like he's got a little more experience now as a player. We've seen him play a lot more tour events. So I don't care about that missed cut. He checks the box. He's 12th in ball striking, 22nd in strokes gained approach. He is 1st in the field in greens and regulation. Literally anything you want to look at. I like Corey Connors. And then my fade is going to be Ryan Palmer at 7,300. I just feel like Palmer is going to have a little bit too high of ownership based off of what he did last week and everything else. And I can't ever hit Palmer anyway. So
I can't either. I was just thinking about him last week. He's a freaking member at Colonial. I made this big case for him at Colonial. Like, hey, with all the uncertainty going into the first event back in 90 days, like maybe the guy that's been playing there the last 90 days repeatedly, which is what he said out of his mouth on the Wednesday press conference. Maybe there's actually a slight edge to that. And what does he do? He freaking misses the cut. And he comes out last week, on fire. God, he pissed me off to know. Oh, he made
this
me
is
so.
this is maybe more of an angry play, but if you want a few stats behind it, he is 68th in the field in greens and regulation. He is 76th in par four scoring in that 400 to 450 yard range. So I don't know. I just think Palmer had a great week. Probably had a good putting week. I didn't look at his putting stats, but you probably did, and that's probably where he gained some strokes. But other
Yeah,
than
well, not
that,
really. He only gained like 1 stroke putting. He gained 8 tee to green.
okay, well, I'm fading
Yeah,
Palmer. I'm not gonna
I'm with you. I got it. He's so tough to nail. Okay. Interesting. I do love this. I do really like this range a lot. I actually have written down Homa, who you mentioned. I do think this is an interesting bounce back for Max. We talked about him. I think I faded him. Somebody asked me about him or something. I faded him the last couple weeks, but it was good to
Well, I
see.
had him at Colonial, and he screwed. I mean, screwed me
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
He missed the cut, but
But I think what was good to see is the iron play at Heritage kind of came back to where it was when we left off in the spring when he was playing so well. I mean, Max is not historically a great chipper. He's not going to gain a lot of strokes from the green. He's historically kind of a level putter. He had a horrible week with the putter last week, but still made the cut. But I mean, the iron play last week was incredible, hitting it well off the tee. I feel like Colonial was a knock the rust off kind of week for Max. And then he got it together a little bit last week, and now the ownership is going to be. I mean, he was 3% last week, and now he's also gone down in price. I mean, he's a great price. So I think Homa is very live. I like the Homa play a lot. My 3 plays, one of them you already mentioned is also Corey Connors. I love Corey Connors here for those reasons you mentioned. I think it's a great play. My favorite play, is tough to nail down, but I'm going to go with Victor Hovland here. I think this is a great spot for Victor. $7,800. He putts best on bent grass greens. We've seen that. He's come out these last 2 weeks looking very solid off the tee, very solid with his irons as always. Chipping looks to be a little improved. At least he's here's the thing. He's the self-proclaimed I suck at chipping kind of guy, right? We got that soundbite from him in the spring. But, I mean, in the last 2 events at the Heritage, he only lost – I say this because it's relative – he only lost 1.2 strokes chipping. At the Charles Schwab, he actually gained 0.7 strokes. Before that, here were his chipping numbers. Before that, minus 3.9, minus 3.6, minus 1.9, minus 2.9, minus 2.5. That's all before quarantine. So, he is improved in chipping, it appears. And that's dangerous for a guy like this that hits so many fairways and greens. And now he comes to a putting surface that historically, even though it's a short history, has done the best at. So I think Hovland at 7,800 is a great play. I do think he'll be a chalky play down here, but I'll eat it. A guy that I'm really excited to play on top of Connors.
Can I interrupt you for just 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
On Victor Hovland, I got to tout the Fantasy Golf Sommelier article that comes out every week on our website, because the last 2 weeks it has been absolute fire, and it is always so the pop the cork and let it breathe play is always the guy that we don't talk about on the podcast. So it can't be Victor this week, but somebody that I've come on to later in the week, or maybe we've talked together and I've just sort of liked them. And for Colonial, it was Gary Woodland. And for the Heritage, it was Victor Hovland. So it's been fire because Hovland was great last week for the most part. Woodland was great, we know, for the Colonial. This is another reason to just hit the site up, for the blog, hit the Fantasy Golf Sommelier, just, check it out. It may not always work, but, we get so much more information and feelings about guys later on in the week. And pretty proud of the way that those two have hit the last couple of weeks. So,
well, and at minimum with the Fantasy Golf Sommelier, listen, it's free. You usually pick up some wine knowledge or liquor, beer, some sort of alcohol insight from Pat as he does study about that around the course and around what's happening. And believe it or not, Pat's actually a decent writer. He's a better writer actually than he is a talker. So
probably so.
It is. It's kind of funny. It's free. So you might as well check it out. By the way, I was looking at this. Homa, I can find Homa at 150 to 1. Victor Hovland at 60 to 1. So those are a couple of very interesting numbers. The last player I really like in this range I was getting to is Scotty Scheffler, who did not play last week.
Bold play. I like it though.
Well, I don't think it's that bold. I mean, he came out 14% owned at the Schwab, disappointed some people, finished 55th.
That's why I say it's a disappointment factor that I'm.
Yeah, really just had a very bad week putting, but that could be chalked up to a number of things. He's a bad putter. Listen, Scotty Scheffler's a bad putter overall. Like he's gonna lose strokes almost every week putting. But for his game, his power game, you know, the ball striking was there. Guy's been playing really, really well before the quarantine. I think it's a very interesting play with some win equity. I think Scotty Scheffler has the sack to win a tournament like this. He's at 80-1 across a lot of books. So I think that's an interesting one. I do think there's a number of plays here that you could roll with. Now, I think where we're going to have an interesting discussion is my fade in this area is none other than Mr. Joaquin Niemann.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I need to hear this because I feel like you could maybe convince me on this, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Well,
outside of ownership, I don't want to hear ownership. Throw out ownership because you're probably going to say that his ownership is going to be higher this week. So I don't want to hear that argument.
Well, that would be a very duh thing to say. Like his ownership is going to be higher. I mean, it was 2% last week. Okay. Yeah. It will be higher because you're going to have recency bias. Okay. That is real. I guess my thing is the recency bias, and it's the consistency factor of Joaquin Niemann. If you go and look at all the events he's played, registered strokes gained events on the PGA Tour, or registered PGA Tour events, 56 tournaments in his young career. There's a lot of inconsistencies with him, and I get it. He's 21. It's weird, right? It's very weird. I mean, he came off his win at the Greenbrier in September. The very next week, finished 54th, and then he missed the cut. You know, it's like the last top 5 he had was at the Tournament of Champions. And what did he do? He finished 57th at the Sony. Then he rattled off 3 missed cuts in a row near right as COVID hit. I just think he's just an inconsistent young player. Now, when you look at what he did last week, he was unbelievable. He was lights out in the strokes gained approach numbers, the iron play. He gained 7.5. He gained 7.5 strokes. Yeah, we like approach play every week, of course. He gained 7.5 strokes last week, as opposed to the 2.5 at the Charles Schwab the week before. In his 56 PGA Tour tournaments, he has only gained 7 strokes in approach one other time. So twice in 56 tournaments has he gained that many strokes on approach. That's definitely an outlier, right? But other than that, he's actually playing pretty normal. So I think given the consistency issues, given the fact that he is going to get some recency bias bump, I think that he's worthy. And he got a price increase at $7,900, which I actually don't think is an unfair price for Joaquin Niemann. But he did get – so he's going to go up in price. He's going to go up in ownership, all because he was on TV a lot over the weekend. Everybody loves to see him hit that little low stinger, right? I think all those things considered can present a good enough argument to fade him. Now, if you want to bet him, maybe bet him. I don't hate it if you bet him. But in tournaments, I think I'll fade Niemann.
Yeah,
Did I convince you? I didn't.
Not really. I mean, I think – look, I mean, you convinced me a little on his – he is inconsistent. I agree with that. But I just feel like this is just another course that he should play really well on. And if he is inconsistent this week, then like if he doesn't play well this week, what you're talking about is going to make a lot like it's going to like I'm going to be like, when do you ever play him? Because it's another course that he should literally, light up. Like
Counterpoint. If the course does in fact play, maybe I'm completely overthinking this, but I think this is real. I think this is real. If the course is going to play as soft as we are hearing it's going to play, that does not necessarily favor a low ball. I mean, the dude hit his driver 50 feet in the air consistently at Hilton Head. 50 feet. Like that, if you got a soft course, that doesn't necessarily favor the guys who are rolling it 100 yards with the driver.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, but where is he hitting his irons though? I mean, I don't know how. Are you talking about height as far as like?
I'm talking about off the tee, like he's not a short hitter, but I'm just saying like off the tee. I think he's actually probably better off playing a firm and fast golf course off the tee. That doesn't have anything to do with his irons. I mean, his irons are going to be good. I'm just talking about maybe there's a slight, maybe if this course is going to play soft, maybe it's a slight disadvantage that he doesn't carry the ball. He doesn't carry it because balls are going to be hitting the ground and stopping.
I don't know. I think that the key for him, for me, is going to be the ownership and what that bounce is going to be. I mean, if I'm looking at Neiman sitting there at 7,900, and if you talk about a lot of guys wanting to play more 9K people and above, and so then they're going to have to drop down in the 7K range. So then we see another ownership bump because of that in that 7K range. Like if we're seeing Neiman at like 20% and stuff like that, I'm probably going to be off of him more.
Yeah.
But if he's like down in that 10% range again, yeah.
He's going to be – I think he'll come in at like the 10 to 15 range, which I think is a very borderline range. He's an inconsistent kid right now. All right, let's move on. We got to wrap this up. Picks in the 6K. I love some names in this range. Absolutely love it. This range, names like Homa, names like Hovland and Scheffler are reasons why I want to go 9K and above and then come down here and just sprinkle a handful of these guys. But I think there's a ton of good names in here that have top 10, top 15, some even win equity in this golf tournament. I think Harry Higgs is as good as any. Matt Neesmith continues to be the guy. I know that everyone's fallen in love with Matt Neesmith now. But listen, Matt Neesmith is he's the real deal. Like he's playing very, very well across the board. Every aspect of his game is tight. The dude scores. He had more eagles than anybody. I think he was at least tied for more eagles than anyone at the tournament last week. He's a scorer. And you talk about scoreable par fours and par fives. This kid can score. He can go low. He's aggressive. I think that matters here. This isn't the U.S. Open, okay? I think Neesmith, Higgs, Doc Redmond continues to prove he can do his thing. All you're waiting on with Doc is the putter. That's all you're waiting on is him to make a few more putts than he normally makes, and he's there. Sebastian Munoz is playing out of his mind right now. I think this is an interesting course for him. And I'm throwing out a lot of names, but I love this range. I'm going to give you two more names. And these are maybe a little more sneaky. Haven't said these names in a while. Cam Champ and Aaron Wise, I think, are interesting names. Ooh, you got some of that? What you got?
Loving some Cam Champ this week. Love him.
Are you?
I am all about it. I didn't go all out because I tried to stick to what our script is.
Well, we don't have a script for the 6K. We just say whatever.
Okay. Well, I only had 3 guys written down, but Cam Champ is one of them. I love him this week at 6,800. Pay no attention, pay no mind to the fact that he missed the cut last year. That does not matter. He's got a little bit more experience. I think that he can destroy this course, and I like him this week a lot. So I am big on Cam Champ.
Yeah. Well, I'm obviously with you. Let me talk to you about Aaron Wise, which is very weird. Okay, very, very weird. The kid, historically, his best putting surface, he loses strokes on every putting surface except for bent grass. Okay, so advantage there. His first event back was last week at the Heritage, where he basically missed the cut because of his putter. Okay, that's pretty par for the course for him. He lost 4 strokes with the putter. He has not played well since like August of last year. But this kid is a winner. He won the Byron Nelson 2018. He won on the PGA Tour. And I just think the price for a bomber on this course where you got to score at $6,200 is very interesting to me. Like, I think Aaron Wise has enough raw talent and ability to finish T15 or better here. And you get a T15 out of a guy at 6,200, you're going to be doing really good. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, a lot of names down there. Love it.
Yeah, there's some good guys in here. I like Ryan Moore at 6,900. Look, we haven't seen him play great lately. He's missed the last 2 cuts, but he did finish T15 here last year. I think this is a good course for him. And we may have a little caddy knowledge that they feel like he's playing good. We'll see. and ready to turn it around. So I like some Ryan Moore at 6,900. So he is a guy that I'll definitely be interested in. And then the other guy that I had written down, you already mentioned, was Doc Redman at 6,700. I think that's a good play this week also. But yeah, there's a lot of good guys that you can go down and get here, which is why, again, like just so many, like you can really hammer that upper 9K range and then get down in here and get some good guys in the 7 and 6K range. So we'll see. I think I'm excited about this tournament. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And
one final stat on these guys. We mentioned Neesmith. We both mentioned Redmond and also Sebastian Munoz. Those three guys, if you look at they've all three played the last 2 weeks. All three of them are in the top 50 of this field in tee to green numbers over those last 2 weeks, but T60 or worse in strokes gained putting over those same 2 weeks. So tee to green locked in, top third of this field, despite being down here in the 6K range, top third of this field in tee to green numbers and ball striking, but bottom third or bottom, 40% in putting, which again, we know is the variable aspect of this. Now we're on bent grass greens, which is a different putting surface than either one of these previous two events. Maybe that flips it. The putter could turn on and get hot at any minute. I just think those three names especially are ready to break out and give you a really good week. So there you go. That's the picks. Good stuff, Pat. Good stuff. Are you ready to hit this last segment? We're going to have fun with this one, I think.
Yeah, I am.